welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Angel Baby Kyra. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go follow me on Instagram and TikTok. So today's video, we're going to be talking about the Brandy Melville documentary. We're going to be talking about two aspects of it. One, first being the brand itself and kind of what the documentary basically is, synopsis of it and some commentary. And then this is going to be a two-part video. So the second part is going to focus on more of the fast fashion aspect of it and its unethical practices in fast fashion design in the fashion industry. If you haven't seen the Brandy Melville documentary, I highly recommend that you watch it. Tons of trigger warnings for ED, SA, things of that nature. It was actually really hard to watch at some points, and it was really shocking, and it was way worse than I thought. Like, I already knew Brandy Melville wasn't best brand, especially with its one size fits all and just knowing how they treat their employees, etc., but watching the documentary really laid everything out pretty neatly, and I don't really know where to start. So we're just gonna start with the person who founded Brandy Melville, and in the documentary it says that you can't really find anything about him. His name's Stefan Marsan, I believe, and he's actually from Italy. He's like a white man. I think he also has a second person, but they mainly focus on Stefan. He's kind of like the person who dictates everything in Brandy Melville. Everyone basically reports to him. And Brandy Melville actually started in Italy, and then it kind of rebranded and focused on like the California teenage girl kind of aesthetic, Newport Beach, Santa Monica, like surfer girl, you know. I think that's really interesting how he found a market or learned enough about a certain kind of demographic where he capitalized off of it so efficiently. I just think it's interesting to see how Italians can really mimic what American girls want, have them just have a cult-like following about it. The Brandy Melville in Italy wasn't the same aesthetic, obviously, as the Brandy Melvilles that opened up in the US. It had one person, I think that was a former employee that worked at the Brandy Melville in Italy, and she was saying how it was completely different than what was being sold and how the shops were being merchandised in the US compared to in Europe. The rise of Brandy Melville came with the rise of Instagram and like kind of like the Tumblr aesthetic and kind of like the rise of Instagram and being like Instagram famous, being Tumblr famous, having aesthetic feeds, etc. And it really used that as a launching pad to where it got to now. Obviously, a lot of people have a lot of issues with the brand itself. The first one that we're going to talk about, obviously, is their one size fits all tags that they have on their clothing, and that's kind of like their whole thing is one size fits all. Ultimately, they changed it to one size fits most because a lot of people eventually were like, that's not really a real size, saying one size fits all, you know, and people are getting backlash. So to kind of aid into that backlash but still keep the one size fits all kind of vibe going, they change it to one size fits most. And the girls that are being interviewed for this documentary were employees of Brandy Melville, either as sales associates, and one of them was a photographer, which they hired because they saw her tag Brandy Melville on one of her Instagram posts or something, and they liked her work because it really fit the brand aesthetic, and she worked with them ever since that, but she doesn't work with them anymore. Like, the brand story doesn't really make sense, and that's kind of what the documentary goes over as well. Is like, if you look at there's no brand story, there's no really any cohesiveness. Like, if you know the story of Brandy Melville is not a person. They're two different people. Brandy is a girl and Melville, I believe, is a man, and they like fall in love or something in Europe. Some weird story, and it has nothing to do with California or beaches or anything like that. So it's kind of weird where that aesthetic comes from. Don't really know where that comes from, but obviously it was really profitable during this time. And with the one size fits all, obviously it is not one size fits all. It fits a very small person, and this is kind of like people's arguments is like, well, Brandy Melville is the only place I can get small clothing. I don't understand that at all, because like the typical sizes are like extra small to large if you're lucky, extra large if you're even luckier. Small is kind of, you know, the societal standard. Your size determines your worth. And a lot of the comments that I've seen, like TikToks right now on TikTok, being like, me wearing all Brandy while watching documentary, me on my way to place an order on Brandy Melville. It's not a flex, and I think this goes into the culture of Tumblr and pro-Anna content, which I feel like a lot of these people are. Not all of them, but a lot of them really praise this kind of sickly figure that isn't healthy. And even the girls in the documentary state that like they were worried that if they actually were at a healthy weight that was good for them, they wouldn't be able to work at Brandy Melville anymore. Going along with that, they would obviously, everyone pretty much knows that they have to do like daily fit checks, and those get sent to Stefan. And in a documentary it says that one of the girls came up behind Stefan one time and saw that he had a folder open of all these pictures of girls that worked at Brandy Melville locations, kept in a folder on his phone. So why would you need to keep all these pictures of girls on your phone? It doesn't make any sense why you would need to do that. Fit checks in general and just taking pictures in general and seeing if they're up to standard just doesn't, it's just icky in general. But the fact that this grown-ass man is keeping pictures of probably like 16, 17, 18-year-olds on his phone, that's a bit creepy. The girls would be so stressed of like trying to fit in to Brandy Melville clothing. They were scared that if they didn't fit into it, they would lose their jobs. Another form of retaliation someone was scared of, and trigger warnings, talks about SA, about how one of the journalists in this documentary says that there was a girl, she went to Stefan's, one of his apartments in New York. Something happened along with SA and she didn't want to report it because, again, in fear of retaliation, she didn't want to lose her job. And one of the girls mentioned that she saw one of the coworkers that she worked with get into a car, and she was like, I wish I had money to Uber every day. And the girl was like, oh no, I don't pay for this Uber, Stefan does, and takes her to like one of his apartments and basically told the other girl, if you know, you know. So that's a little weird too. I'm using a little bit weird very lightly. Just all these little red flags in this company that are just so destructive to young girls and making them think that it was a privilege to work for them. Another thing obviously is the racism that occurred in the company, where in retail companies and stores, I worked at Pt.1, so I feel like this is most of the kind of tiers when you work in fast fashion or retail, is that it's first sales associate. Everyone starts as a sales associate or fitting room, and then you go to cashier. And I got to visual merchandiser, which is kind of like higher than the sales associates, higher than the cashier, kind of like you're with managers or whatever. And the stock room was where people went if you weren't doing good on the floor, if you weren't getting enough credit cards, or you're just talking too much, or whatever it was, you'd get sent to the stockroom, and no one wanted to be in the stockroom. Brandy Melville had, and very few of them that I will add, POC people, they had a black girl literally go start in the stockroom as a stock associate, and they would only put POC in the back. If that doesn't tell you anything, I don't know what will. Because even she says like, oh, I wish that I could be in the front with the other girls, blah blah blah, but she still felt grateful that she was still working at Brandy Melville even though she was in the stockroom. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so horrible that she thinks like this is like a privilege to be treated that way and just to be looked down upon. And I think they only showed one black girl and an Asian girl, because mind you, they didn't really hire anyone that wasn't white and thin, and I was kind of like the prerequisite for Stefan. If he saw someone in the store or told the girls who were already working to take like fit pictures of customers who came in, and they would send it to Stefan, and he'd be like, oh, hire them right away, or whatever he thought. That's kind of how they scouted out people, which is also kind of predatory and kind of weird in my opinion. Then we get into the company group chat, which is just completely like, they say that it was jokes, and I use the term jokes. It's definitely not jokes, because jokes have to be funny, and these are not funny, but just blatantly kind of things that they would send to each other in the group chat. And this would go to everyone in the company. At least that's what it said in the documentary. And there's two guys that have their identities hidden, and one of them, he said like one time maybe it's like a joke, but once it keeps happening and happening, it's not a joke anymore. And there's also another guy where Stefan wanted him to fire a girl because I think she gained weight or something, and he said that he wouldn't do it, and he couldn't do it because he couldn't find a reason to fire this girl. The same thing happened in Italy with the girl that they're interviewing that was a Brandy Melville employee in Italy, and I think they wanted to fire her, and she couldn't understand the reason why they wanted to fire her, because she knew she was a good worker, but it was because the fact that they thought she was unattractive and she gained weight. That was really interesting to see these kinds of business practices that are so prevalent, especially in the fashion industry, and I know it just doesn't happen in Brandy Melville. It's just kind of gross that that's the kind of behavior that's going on behind this fashion brand that everyone just like covets. Like I remember in like the Panini in 2020, like on Depop, Brandy Melville, like resellers or reselling was just like a really big thing, and a lot of the times people who would buy like in groups of buying Brandy Melville and then like selling it on Depop, or like everyone was looking for like the leopard print tank top as well, and I thought it was kind of weird. I didn't understand the hype behind Brandy Melville. I definitely still don't now. And a lot of the people who are commenting on TikToks that of people who are criticizing Brandy Melville and its brand basically say like, oh, you guys are mad because you can't fit into Brandy Melville.
I just want to come on here and say that stop shitting on Brandy Melville. That's all I have to say. I'm sick of this documentary shit. I'm sick. I'm sick and tired. If you really are pissed about something that, like, clothing-wise, company-wise, go to fucking Shein, bitch. Go to fucking Balenciaga. Go to them. Leave Brandy Melville alone. They didn't do shit. I stand with you. I stand with Brandy Melville. Mm-hmm. Also, the bitch that's claiming that they sold the purple cargos, I feel, first of all, if this is famous, I feel like someone's gonna stitch me and be like, they literally did it.
This is the problem.
Brandy Melville will never, and they will never do it again. They're not posting your ugly ass purple cargo fucking parachute pants. They're not doing that. They're not doing it. Okay, disclaimer, if they actually did sell that, don't come at me. They'll never do it again. They already told me. Never again.
They already told me. The amount of times I went to Brandy, they took pics of my outfits. ... Because they were making fun of you, retard.
Why are you mad about that? If a worker took a picture of me,
Brianna.
next thing I know,
Brianna.
they fucking sell it. And they say, like, Brianna sweatshirt, which that's a thing.
Sweatshirt.
You know Brianna sweatshirt is the like, famous one? Anyways. What? I'll be honored.
No,
I don't need credits. I don't need credits. Just the thought that Brandy Melville posted my outfit and actually sold it. I don't need credit. I don't need money. I don't need a fucking documentary. That's for sure. So stop acting like you don't like that shit. Stop. She's making fun of me. I'm just pissed, okay?
Instagram Live?
No.
Yes, wait, can we please?
Okay, wait, but you have to, like, at Brandy Melville. Also, who the fuck is John Galt?
Who
On the tag? He could literally be a mass murderer. Cut the tag off.
What?
Cut the tag off if it bothers you. Cut the tag off.
Okay.
Cut the fucking tag off. This bitch is wearing Brandy Melville sweatpants. Show them off. Oh. Show them. Yeah. Tell me those aren't the nicest sweatpants ever. And I've had mine for years. The clothing doesn't wear out. Way better than Shein. Go fucking yell at Shein, okay? Okay. Fuck out of here. Like, literally, stop the madness. They're not posting your rainbow color shit. They're not going to be inclusive, so stop asking them to be. Sorry. So, that's all I have to say. Stop being a hater of Brandy Melville. Go hate someone else. Don't make the company want to include everyone because they shouldn't. Sorry.
I think this is just the kind of like mindset and mentality that this brand has really pitched to young girls and giving them a superiority that because they can fit into this brand and it is not made for everyone, even though it says that it's made for everyone, that only a few people can actually fit into this brand. And a lot of people also say like, oh, if it's okay for brands to have plus sizes, why isn't it okay for a brand to have smaller sizes? But the thing is like Brandy Melville doesn't even say like they're catering to petite sizes. They're saying that one size fits all, and that's just not true. And they're trying to disguise that as a way to just, cater to one specific demographic. And obviously, it's very blatantly obvious what kind of person that they favor. It's really gross seeing how many people that are just like, oh, I'm still buying from Brandy Melville. I don't care about the documentary, blah, blah, blah. And people just saying like, oh, it's the only place that I can buy clothes. There's so many other places you can buy clothes. Not to mention that it's like fast fashion, and that's where the part 2 comes in, and we'll get into like the fast fashion aspect. But it's just so saddening to see that these girls actually thought like they were valued by Stefan, that they were valued by this company, when they weren't. They were just exploited for minimum wage, doing all of these things that they weren't supposed to, like, that weren't in their wage bracket, And I've been in that situation too, where I was basically exploited and doing a lot of things above my pay grade and thinking it would get me somewhere in the company. It didn't. Again, a fast fashion company. So I just think like it's damaging to see. It's damaging to support a brand that is just blatant about everything. And even when people are presented with these kinds of things with evidence, you can't make people care or have empathy about other people. That's just something that you just can't force onto people, because I think empathy and caring for others is just something that is human, and I feel like it's something that I just feel like it should be natural. And the fact that people don't have any empathy and are super selfish and just very self-centered is also why Brandy Melville did so well and does so well, is because they profit off of that kind of mentality, and they kind of, I don't know what you call it, like they've cultivated that little community, their cult community, and telling them that if they buy their stuff, then they fit in. If they buy their stuff, then they're like cool, you know. And I never really seen any Brandy Melville hauls like in real life on TikTok or anything. I'm showing like the TikTok hauls or like YouTubers way back when saying like, oh my god, I'm wearing Brandy, this is Brandy, blah blah blah, whatever. They really picked up the traction of influencer culture when it was still more relevant than it was today. And I feel like a lot of more people are kind of more brand conscious, and not to say that we still don't have people that still have like tons of Shein hauls and like over mass consumption things, but I feel like Instagram at the time was really taking off, and that's how Brandy Melville did so good, because it started on Instagram, you know. All the girls in the documentary really seem to be reflective and seem to have grown from what they've experienced, and thankfully all of them are out of that kind of environment. And I think it's good to see that they did grow and mature and realize that the environment that they were in was wrong. Even some of them admit like they treated people badly, because in the store, and they're kind of notorious for like being complete bitches when you come in the store, and just kind of ignore you, especially if you're not thin or white. And I went to one Brandy Melville store in my life. It was in Malibu. I went in for 1 second and I just went out, because it was completely ridiculous that like I came in, their smiles went off their faces as soon as I walked in, but as soon as another white girl came in, they're just like complimenting her and telling her all this stuff. So I was like, I just wanted to see for myself like what it was really like to see if like people were actually exaggerating. They're not. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about for this documentary, because there's honestly a lot to digest, and a lot of it is hard to digest, you know. Yeah, if you want to watch a documentary, I'll put some links in it for where you can watch it. I'm sure other people have commentary on it too, so stay tuned for the part 2 where we talk about the fast fashion aspect, because we literally just talked about what half of the documentary was about, because half of it was about Brandy Melville's employees, how it was treated, business practices, and then also focuses on the fast fashion aspect of it and the fashion industry, and how it's just one part of a really bad problem of the fast fashion industry and the fashion industry in general. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever shopped at Brandy Melville? Have you stopped shopping at Brandy Melville? What are your thoughts on one size fits all branding? Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
I don't know.